June, the House passed the bill that we've been talking about here. I have concerns that have not been discussed here in the last few minutes. Although the Senate voted 90-6 on a bipartisan amendment to prohibit funding for the transfer of GITMO detainees to the United States, the Supplemental Appropriation Conference deleted that language. Now, that language came from an amendment that was authored by myself and my good friend from Hawaii, Senator Inhofe. But they stripped that language out. The Senate's bipartisan amendment would have effectively prevented the closing of the terrorist detention at GITMO. Since President Obama announced that he intended to close GITMO, it's become widely circulated that these detainees could be transferred to American prisoners for prosecution in the U.S. Criminal courts and potentially released in the United States. In February of this year, I led a delegation down. I've been there several times. A delegation that had never been down to GITMO, and they're in shock at the fine treatment that detainees get down there, and the fact that all the rumors that there are torturing going on there, not one incident of torture has ever been documented. Now, after I returned, I introduced S-370 to prevent the detainees at GITMO from being relocated anywhere on American soil. Now, since that time, it's been called to our attention that the administration is talking about maybe 17 locations in the United States to put these terrorists. Well, one of those locations was Fort Sill in my state of Oklahoma. I went down there and I found out that that would not be at all workable. In fact, the Sergeant Major Carter, who was in charge of the prison at Fort Sill, said, why in the world would they close a place like GITMO? It's the ideal place to keep these people. And currently, and even though they're talking about putting them in supermax prisons, the only supermax facility is located in Colorado, Florence, Colorado. According to the Bureau of Prisons, as of May 21st, only one bed has not been filled at Supermax. Obviously, this isn't going to work. There are some, the BOP facilities at the beginning of this month was 13,448 inmates, while the total prison population of those facilities was far more than that, exceeding 20,000. Now, despite claims by Senator Durbin for the Supermax prisons in the United States are ready to receive detainees, the Supermax prisons in the United States are at or above their maximum capacity. Additionally, the civilian prisoners do not meet the same standard as currently exists at GITMO. In 2002, an entire wing of a jail in Alexandria, Virginia was cleared out for the 9/11/20 hijacker Zacharias to be housed in the jail. That was just one detainee. For one detainee, they're talking about clearing out the entire wing to move those. So moving detainees to the United States would not be reasonable. It will also place America as its citizens at risk and inevitably creating a new set of targets. This is the problem you have. You have 17 places in the United States where you're putting these people. We have 17 magnets to draw in terrorists located around the country. 3 weeks ago, or 3 weeks after I called for President Obama and the Senate colleagues to go see firsthand the facility at GITMO, Attorney General Eric Holder, he's our new Attorney General, appointed by President Obama, went down there. He came back with a glowing report, and the facility is well run by its current military officers. This affirms what I've been saying all along, and that is GITMO is a state-of-the-art facility that provides humane treatment for all detainees and is fully compliant with the Geneva Convention. Now, when the War Supplemental came to the floor in the Senate, I was extremely pleased that Democrats and Republicans in the Senate joined together and announced that they would not include the $80 million in the War Supplemental to close GITMO. Sadly, this bipartisan initiative has fallen victim to partisan politics without any regard for our national security or the wishes of the American people. Senator Harry Reid, declared, and I agreed with him in a press conference after my bipartisan Senate amendment was passed, that, quote, we will never allow terrorists to be released into the United States. I think that's a good statement. I agree with it. He went on to say, and I'm quoting now, we don't want them around the United States. I can't make it any clearer the statement I've given you. We will never allow terrorists to be released in the United States. Well, that sounds real good, and I agree with him, and I hope that he's right. However, the problem is, if you try to try these people in our federal court system, when the rules of evidence are different in terms of admissibility of evidence, many times you would not be able to get a prosecution, and they would be turned loose. Finally, Senator Durbin said the feeling was, at this point, we were defending the unknown. We were being asked to defend a plan that hasn't been announced. Well, I have to say it still hasn't been announced. Now, 2 weeks ago, the Obama administration again went against the will of Congress and the American people by transferring the first GITMO detainee to the United States for his trial in New York City. This was Ahmed Ghalani. Now, this is the guy, if you remember, this was the terrorist who was responsible for the bombing of the American embassies in Tanzania and in Kenya. He was later captured in Pakistan in 2004 while working for al-Qaeda, preparing false documents and facilitating a transport of arms to insurgents across the Afghan-Pakistan border. Intelligence shows that Ghalani met both bin Laden and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed in Afghanistan and remained in close association with al-Qaeda until his capture in 2004. Now, this bona fide terrorist will have the privilege of a United States civilian court trial in the United States. Ghalani was just one of 239 detainees housed in the state-of-the-art facility at GITMO. According to the Wall Street Journal today, the government official has said that well over 50 detainees have been approved for transfer to other countries and that negotiations were continuing with Saudi Arabia to take a large group of Yemen detainees. Attorney General Eric Holder estimated yesterday that more than 50 detainees may end up on trial by U.S. authorities. This news comes as more and more Americans are growing opposed to the closure of GITMO. In fact, I would have to say this, Mr. President, recently we've had more and more polls taken, and it's now about a 3-to-1 ratio that people don't want these people tried in the United States. They don't want to have them housed in the United States. So we have a real serious problem. Not only are we talking about the 245 detainees down there, we're also talking about an increase in the surge in Afghanistan. And even though Afghanistan does have 2 prisons, they won't take any detainees unless they're Afghans. So if they're from Yemen, they're from Djibouti, they won't take them. So this is the problem that we have right now. And the views of Congress haven't changed. In 2007, the Senate vote of 94-3 on a non-binding resolution to block detainees from being transferred to the United States, declaring, quote, detainees housed at Guantanamo should not be released into American society, nor should they be transferred stateside into facilities in American communities and neighborhoods. In 2009, the Senate voted 90-6 to again keep detainees out of America. The views of the American people have not changed. I mentioned the polls. The polls are all conclusive that the American people do not want to have these people turned loose in the United States, which is exactly what could happen. Well, the quality of the facility of GITMO has not changed. It's the only facility of its kind that is currently has 6 levels of security for the different levels of security. It has 1 doctor for each 2 detainees, and as everyone agrees, it's the ideal place. And one of the few good things, the good deals that we have in government, I may add, and that is it only costs us $4,000 a year. We've had this place since 1903. It's something we can't get rid of. Now, the only reason I'm mentioning this now is that I have the bill that's filed, and that is the S-370 that meets the will of the
Senator from Oklahoma has 1 minute remaining.
I thank the chair. And so this bill that I have, S-370, will give people in this chamber an opportunity to vote to keep the detainees, to keep the terrorists out of the United States of America. And I would say to this, if there are some people who would be voting for the supplemental as it is right now, at least they would have another opportunity to express their will, as they've expressed on 2 other occasions, that we don't want the detainees, we don't want the terrorists tried in America or to be detained within the United States of America. So with this, it's my hope that the majority will allow an immediate vote on the bill that I have filed, S-370. I yield the balance of my time.